If you've been living under a rock, or just stayed off TikTok for more than 20 minutes, the drama surrounding the film adaptation of It Ends With Us was less of a press tour and more of a Cold War. We saw the jagged edges of the Justin Baldoni versus Blake Lively and Colleen Hoover rift from a distance. We tracked the unfollows, the separate screenings, and the awkward, stony-faced interviews. But we never expected the author herself to pick up the pen and write a 400-page fictional receipt. Woman Down isn't just a book, it's a high-stakes scavenger hunt for shade. And the wildest part? In her haste to point the finger at her antagonist, Colleen might have accidentally handed us the map to her own involvement in the smear campaign that nearly took Justin Baldoni down. Before we get into the secret codes hidden in Chapter 4, we have to ask, how did a story about healing from trauma turn into a real-life battleground of egos? In Woman Down, we are introduced to a character named Julian Vane. He's a charismatic, slightly brooding, and, according to the protagonist, deeply manipulative filmmaker. Sound familiar? Colleen doesn't just nudge the reader. She practically shoves us into the realization that Julian is a stand-in for Justin. She describes Julian's performative empathy and his need to control every frame to fit his own ego. It's a scathing critique wrapped in the guise of a thriller. Throughout the first few chapters, the protagonist, Sarah, laments how Julian took her heart's work and tried to make it his own. This mirrors the whispers we heard during the It Ends With Us production, claims that Justin's creative vision clashed with the Coho brand. Julian's office in the book is described as having a very specific, minimalist aesthetic, down to a cluttered bookshelf of self-help titles about conscious masculinity. Justin Baldoni is the author of Man Enough. The shade isn't just subtle, it's practically neon. By portraying the director as a villain who gaslights his collaborators, Colleen is rewriting the narrative of the film's production. She isn't just telling a story, she's performing a public relations exorcism. But as the old saying goes, when you point one finger, 3 are pointing back at you. Is it possible that in her attempt to expose Julian's ego, she accidentally revealed her own? Stay tuned, because the publicity storm section is where the mask really starts to slip. We all remember the It Ends With Us release. It was supposed to be a moment of triumph for domestic violence awareness. Instead, it became a frenzy of floral arrangements and girl power, marketing that felt strangely dismissive of the actual subject matter. In Woman Down, Sarah, the protagonist, works with a high-level PR firm to manage Julian's reputation while secretly undermining him. This is where the book stops being a story and starts feeling like a confession. The book details a specific strategy Sarah uses, the weaponization of silence. In the real world, the most damning part of the Baldoni and Hoover rift wasn't what was said, but what wasn't. The cast's refusal to mention Justin in interviews, the lack of photos together, it was a coordinated blackout. In Woman Down, Sarah describes this exact tactic as starving the ego of its oxygen. If you don't give them a seat at the table, Sarah muses in Chapter 12, eventually the world forgets they were even invited to the dinner. The real kicker isn't just the PR moves. It's a specific, recurring clue that suggests Colleen was far more involved in the Justin shaming than we ever imagined. Every Coho fan knows she loves a good recurring symbol. In Woman Down, it's a red scarf that the villainous Julian insists the lead actress wears. Sarah describes it as a symbol of his stifling grip on the production. Now, let's look back at the It Ends With Us BTS footage. There were rumors of intense disagreements over wardrobe and creative vibes. By placing this specific grievance in her book, Colleen is essentially saying, I didn't forget, and I haven't forgiven. The more Sarah complains about Julian's dark side, the more the reader begins to notice Sarah's own penchant for manipulation. It's a psychological whodunit, where the narrator might be the one holding the smoking gun. What happens when the victim of the story is the one actually pulling the strings? The answer lies in the book's final act. The wildest part of Woman Down occurs during a scene where Sarah describes a controlled leak to the press. She justifies it as protecting the project, but the language she uses is cold, calculated, and terrifyingly efficient. In this moment, Colleen, through Sarah, effectively admits that the publicity storm wasn't a natural disaster. It was a cloud-seeding project. The role of the author as the puppeteer. By writing this book so quickly after the film's release, Colleen has created a feedback loop. She clashes with Justin on set. She, allegedly, participates in a cold shoulder PR strategy. She writes a book about a woman dealing with a difficult director, knowing her millions of fans will buy it to find the tea. It's a brilliant business move, but it's a messy human one. The book exposes how the smear worked. It wasn't about proving Justin was a bad guy. It was about making him an outsider. At the end of Woman Down, Sarah doesn't find peace. She finds power. This is the most telling part of the entire Justin Baldoni saga. The smear campaign didn't destroy the movie. It made it a talking point. It turned a standard book adaptation into a choose-your-side cultural event. Colleen Hoover is a titan of industry. Justin Baldoni is a successful director and actor. In the end, both probably walked away with bigger bank accounts. But the destruction Colleen hints at in the book, the ruining of Julian's reputation, is a warning shot to anyone else who thinks they can challenge the Hoover method. Relatable moment. We've all seen mean girl energy in the workplace. It's subtle, it's coded, and it's devastatingly effective. Woman Down is the literary version of that energy. As long as there are Easter eggs to find and shade to throw, the It Ends With Us fallout will continue to haunt the bestseller lists. Now, I want to hear from you. Did you catch the Julian vibes while reading Woman Down? Do you think Colleen is exposing the truth, or is this just a masterclass in rewriting history? Drop a comment below and tell me, are you Team Coho or Team Baldoni? Let's get into the nitty-gritty of the shade. Don't forget to share this with your favorite book club friend. They need to know what's really between the lines.